Welcome to Aviation for Youth, your gateway to real stories, insights, and inspiration from leaders shaping the skies in the travel world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Aviation for Youth, the podcast where we bring you conversations with aviation and travel professionals from around the globe to inspire the next generation of industry leaders. I'm your host, Alibek, and today I'm really excited to bring you a special guest who has shaped the aviation industry from the cockpit to the training room. Our guest is a highly experienced airline pilot and instructor who has flown some of the world's largest aircraft, including the A330, A340, and the iconic A380. He has spent over 15 years at Emirates. Currently, he flies for Delta Airlines as a first officer on the Boeing 757 and 767, and also works as a line validation pilot. His career spans over 2 decades in multiple airlines, starting with Pinnacle Airlines in the US before moving on to Dubai to fly globally with Emirates, and now returning back to the US to continue his journey with Delta. In this episode, we'll explore his career path, what it's like to fly the A380, his experiences as an international pilot, and his advice for aspiring pilots dreaming of sitting in the left seat one day. Whether you're dreaming of a career in the skies or curious about what happens behind the scenes in travel, I think you're going to find this conversation really inspiring. So let's jump right in. Welcome, Magic. It's a big honor to have you here with us today.
Hi, Alibek, and everybody listening. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming as well. So, starting off with your career journey in aviation, what would you say first inspired you to become a pilot, and how did your aviation journey begin? Can you please walk us through?
As long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a pilot. It started with, going on flights, with my parents. And every single flight I would take, I would visit the flight deck. And this is before 2001, where you could actually go into the flight deck during the flight. So I would basically ask the flight attendant, please, can I see the pilots? And I would go in the flight deck and I would stay there as long as they would allow me to before they kicked me out. And I would ask them a million questions. And I remember one Lufthansa flight when they first got their 340-200. They were very receptive and showing me all the features of the new airplane they just got. And I spent the whole entire flight in the flight deck of that, I think it was Dusseldorf to New York flight. And I knew, from that day, hey, this is something I want to do. And I would always ask them, hey, how do I get to your seat? How do I get to be in your position? What do I need to do? And they would tell you, study in school and make sure, you speak good English because that's the international language of aviation. And whatever they would tell me, I would just write down and make sure I follow it to end up in that same spot.
Wow, that's really interesting, and looks like you've had a passion for since you were a child, right? Yeah, it took a lot.
I was, and at Delta, we always encourage visitors to the flight deck. Obviously, it's got to be on the ground either before or after the flight. So I always, anybody who ever asks to come see the flight deck, I always welcome them, and I try to provide that same kind of welcome and information and inspiration that I received as a kid, and just kind of pay it back.
Yeah, and I remember for example, when I was like, for example, 5 years old, I would always ask the flight attendants to go to the cockpit of my country, Kazakhstan. Airastan is our flag carrier, and I would always ask to go to the cockpit, and I would always be allowed to. So it was a really interesting experience for me and you as well. So we can relate. We're on the same wavelength. So
Exactly.
yeah, my next question is more of a multifaceted question and could be looked at in many different ways. But knowing that you've flown for regional airlines in the US and major international carriers like Emirates and Delta, how would you say each step shaped your skills and mindset as a pilot?
I think every single step, well, in aviation, you always want to learn. If I do a flight, every single flight I do, I learn something. I learn something new. I learn a new way of doing things. I learn from mistakes. I learn from other people. There's sometimes there's many ways of skinning the cat, so to speak. So you learn, a better way of doing something that you've been doing for a while, or you feature on your electronic flight bag. So every single day is a learning opportunity, and as long as you keep on learning and don't ever get complacent, you'll be successful. Starting out on the turboprops, I flew the Saab 340. straight out of flight school, and that was mainly basic flying skills, just knowledge, learning a lot about how the airline industry works. Basically, just like your introduction to aviation and turboprops. There was a SAP 340. You fly in the weather at 14,000 feet, and um, a lot of the smaller airports with no control towers. So that was a unique type of experience, but kind of limited in geographically just to the southeast of the U.S. And then from there, I moved on to regional jets for the same company, and I've learned a lot about flying in cold weather because in the southeast it's warm. We flew the RJs to Canada and in the northeast and the Midwest where there's de-icing and ice storms. So I've learned about that, de-icing procedures, as well the transition from a turboprop to a jet. Things move a lot quicker on the jet than they do on the turboprop. The handling characteristics are different. Um, so that was I guess, a big step, but because I was, very young, so I didn't really find that as a challenge because, when you're young and as a, starting out, you just embrace pretty much every single challenge, and you're like, all right, get to fly jets now. And when I upgraded as a captain, my first time as a captain was on the CRJ 200. So then a whole new skill set comes in because it's not just about flying the airplane and following the procedures. It's about leadership, and communication, decision making. So you're interacting with with the flight attendants, with the maintenance, with the dispatcher, gate agent. So there's a lot more interpersonal skills as well as managing different personalities, different skill sets, all to come up with a successful outcome as a successful flight. And then from then on, I moved to Emirates. So I think that was the biggest jump I've made is from CRJ, regional flying to a A330 first officer at Emirates. That was probably the biggest jump. Different airlines have different ways of training as well, and the level of training at Emirates was on a very high level.
Mm.
So that's probably when I realized the most new about flying when I made that transition. So it's then you just basically almost like drinking from the garden hose. There's so much new information you're learning about, a much bigger airplane, more complex operation, flying to many different countries, different procedures. Every single country has their way of doing things, even though ICAO is supposed to be all standard, it's very much not standard. And it changes all the time as well, like the North Atlantic. I mean, almost like every month or every 2 months, there's a new change flying the North Atlantic that you have to keep up with. And Oceanic decided to be different, and they're gonna do it a different way. So when you start flying international wide body, it's a lot to learn and a lot to keep up with as well, because you're not just flying in your home country where it's kind of everything is you've learned it and now it's stable. No, you fly in different countries, which is very dynamic. So in Emirates, I've learned more about decision making, situational awareness, workload management. And then when I upgraded, it was a whole nother skill set. How do you manage, 26 flight attendants? So
Yeah,
very different operation from, regional flying.
yeah. And probably also like managing conflicts and passenger interactions as well can be quite challenging, right? So yeah, and as you explained, becoming a pilot is definitely life-changing and fascinating. And so looking back, what would you say there were any decisions or turning points that shaped your career journey or like changed your life as a pilot? Any decisions, any, turning points?
Yeah, it's very easy to get comfortable in your role or at your airline or in your seat or in your airplane. But taking that leap of faith and trying new things, this is how you grow. So, I mean, the two turning points that I've made was first was the decision to move from Pinnacle Airlines to Emirates, on the other side of the world, flying, a much bigger airplane all over the world. So that was a huge de decision to make, kind of leave your family behind and move halfway across the world.
Yeah.
And then the other decision, big leap of faith decision was to actually leave Emirates and then to come to Delta back home.
Yeah.
And anytime you, unlike any other profession, if you're a doctor, you kind of keep on moving up no matter what hospital you work for. You don't start on the bottom, you start on the same level that you're at or higher. With airlines, it's all seniority based. So when you start a job at a new airline, you're right on the bottom, usually as a first officer, and you just kind of have to work your way up again. So it's a big decision to leave one airline for another. But I did not regret either of those two decisions. Going to Emirates, gave me so much exposure to so many different flying opportunities, airplanes and destinations, as well as growth opportunities like becoming an instructor there, both on the line and in the simulator. So that was a big decision to go there, and I don't regret it. It was excellent, 15 and a half years I spent there. And then to come back to Delta, it was kind of a now or never moment. I was kind of like midway through my career, and I had to make a decision. Do I stay here for the next 20 years or do I start somewhere else? And because of COVID, a lot of pilots took an early out retirement. So all of a sudden they were hiring a lot of pilots in a very short period of time. So that kind of allowed me to skip the whole being junior and starting back from scratch phase and kind of jump in a little bit higher, which was kind of a glitch in the system. Normally, you have to kind of work your way up.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess the lesson learned from that is don't be afraid of new challenges and jump at all the opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And just like a small question, I've seen that Emirates pilots have experienced some challenges with like COVID-19 and how like they were like firing some pilots because of flight shortages. Did you experience any like problems with that, or was it all smooth for you?
Well, it was all smooth for me, but my colleagues, there's a lot of my colleagues that were made redundant in COVID-19, and basically they had 3 months to pack up everything and go home. And a lot of them were called back, after COVID subsided. But yeah, there was a lot of hardship for a lot of people during that time, especially airlines in Europe and the Middle East, where you don't have the protections that exist in the US.
So moving on to like flying the wide body and the A380 experience, as I would call it, you've flown some of the world's largest aircraft, like the A330, A340, and A380. What would you say was like transitioning to flying the king of the skies, the A380?
Believe it or not, the A380 is a very easy airplane to fly. It's got all the pilot friendly features, and it's kind of like you have you start on a stick shift when you first learn how to drive. You have a stick shift with kind of basic radio and manual transmission, and then you get into a luxury car which has all the latest features and automatic transmission and power steering. It's kind of like that. The A380 has all the bells and whistles to make your job really easy, and it is really easy.
Mhm.
Transitioning from the 340 to the 380 is actually a short course because they are very similar. The main difference is the interface with the airplane as far as the FMS. There isn't a conventional FMS on the 380. It's kind of like a Windows-based, mouse point and click driven interface with the airplane. So that was probably the biggest challenge, is just to learn how to navigate the FMS on the 380 and the OIS, which they have all the apps that help you with the flight. But the actual transition from 340 to 380 was quite easy. I would say that the more challenging transition was from the 380 to the 757, 767, which is,
Uh,
a couple generations
yeah,
behind.
yeah. And like from your experience, what makes, would you say, operating the A380 unique than other wide body aircraft? Is there something, I don't know if you've mentioned this right now, but is there something specific that's completely different or like something that's very special to the A380?
So all the numbers on the A380 are bigger. They're huge. So you kind of have to wrap your head around the fact that, it's 575 tons, which is almost 1.3 million pounds max takeoff weight. And we routinely operate at max takeoff weight on the, flights like LA or Auckland back to Dubai. Um, the most people I've had is 650 souls on board. So when you deal with that many people, and let's say 1% of them is a problem, that means you got, potentially six
Yeah,
people, either a medical event or, they're being unruly, they don't listen to the flight attendants, or demanding or have some kind of an issue. So with the big numbers, you kind of have more issues just because of the scale of the operation. You have 26 flight attendants, so that's a lot of crew as well to deal with when you're walking through immigration and customs at any airport. All the other airlines hate you because they know they're gonna be waiting for half an hour if they stuck behind you.
yeah.
It's like the biggest fear of all the other airline employees, don't get stuck behind Emirates or Qatar or Singapore because you're gonna be there forever. One nice thing about flying the A380 is everybody loves it. The crew love to operate it. The passengers love to be on board. We have, av geeks who book flights on A380 just to go on it, and they're all eager to, come to the flight deck and see how it works. And so when everybody's getting off, everybody's happy because they just, enjoy the ride on the nicest airplane in the sky. So that is always a very nice thing to have people love the airplane that you're flying because I know when I was in the CRJ, everybody hated the CRJ. So people were always complaining when they're getting off the airplane, whereas on the 380, people were like, "Oh, this is great. I love it."
And I've also heard crew from like cabin crew from Emirates say that they like working in a A380 more than they like working in the Boeing 777, like for the efficiency of the operations, I would say.
Right. Yeah, it's huge. It's got big galleys. I think the only maybe one section of the airplane that probably is not so user friendly for the flight attendants is the business class on the upper deck because they don't do carts. They actually bring out the food, tray by tray. So it's a lot of walking. But yeah, it's a very uh, well-designed airplane. So crew love to work it. Pilots love it. Passengers love it. It's great, and it's easy to operate and a joy to fly.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, this is I think my favorite question. Do you have any memorable flights or moments from your years as an A380 captain at Emirates that definitely stand out to you?
Well, I flew the airplane for 7 years, so there's lots of memorable flights, but probably the one that would stand out the most was Tuesday, the 24th of March, 2020.
Oh,
And that is the first day of COVID, basically. We got an email from the company saying that the UAE is closing its borders and you're going to bring the empty airplane back. So there was actually 26 crew members that brought the airplane over. They couldn't land in England. So they were going to be on board with us. But apart from that, the airplane is empty. So that was just a surreal experience because you fly that airplane with, 500 to 600 people, mostly, every flight, and all of a sudden it's empty. And so I remember actually going during the flight, to use the lav and walking through the cabin, and I'm like, wow, so all these seats are empty. The airplane is just completely empty. We checked in with Maastricht Control, which is over the Netherlands, and the controller told us pick any point in Europe and go direct, which never happens. Europe, you get
yeah.
turn left 10 degrees for traffic, and there's all this busy airspace. All of a sudden, the airspace is empty, and they tell us go anywhere you want.
Hmm.
So that was a surreal experience. I actually wrote an article about that for Airways magazine. It got published on the December 22, uh, uh, 2022 issue of the Airways magazine. My experience from that flight.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to. I'll definitely have a read over that for the info. So thank you for this, by the way. So looking over your career, you're obviously an international pilot at Emirates, to be specific. Having worked for Emirates and Delta, and I'm also quite interested in this, how does flying internationally differ from flying domestically in the US?
It's almost like a different job. And with my fleet, we have both the 757 and the 767. 757 does mostly domestic flying. So occasionally I do domestic flights, but it's almost like a different ball game. Domestic, you have a lot more legs. Takeoffs and landings. You deal with a lot more weather. Um, ATC delays, ground stops, route changes. It's very much hands-on, and you're pretty much busy all the time when you fly domestic. Even like going, cross country from New York to LA, the air traffic control changes you to the next sector every couple minutes, and you keep on checking in with new air traffic controllers. So it's very busy, which is kind of fun in a way because you do a lot more takeoffs and landings. It's more interactive. You definitely have no time to get bored.
Mhm.
With international flying, it's usually just one leg over or one leg back with 24 hours in between on average. You always have an augmented crew, which means you have either 3 or 4 pilots, depending on the length of the flight,
Yeah.
which is a little bit different dynamic. As a uh, um, just with a two-man crew, somebody's doing the walk around, somebody's busy in preparing the FMS. Whereas with 3 or 4 people, you have other people you can delegate different things to, different parts of the job. So it's actually very relaxed, very easy. The only issue with flying international is jet lag. So, you take off in the afternoon out of the US, you fly all night, and then you get to Europe in the morning, and your body says, I want to sleep. But hey, it's a beautiful day in Naples, Italy. Who's gonna sleep, right?
Yeah. Do you fly to Europe often?
Yeah, a lot of in the summer on this airplane, it's a European airplane, so it flies to Europe um, quite a bit. So this month, I only had one non-European flight, which was to Dakar in Senegal. I've been to Catania in Sicily, which is a new destination for us this year. I have 3 Naples
Wow,
in Italy.
insane.
Yep, and I'm going as well to Edinburgh next week in Scotland.
Oh, have fun.
I'm doing training on that flight for a first officer that's getting qualified on the Atlantic theater qualification.
Oh, nice. So again, going back to like long haul flying, working at Delta and Emirates, you definitely have to fly a lot for long haul flights, right? As you mentioned. What would you say some of the biggest challenges and rewards of long haul flying are? Do the benefits outweigh the negatives, or is it the other way around? How does it work for you personally?
Oh, the benefits definitely outweigh the negatives. It's almost like an adventure every time you go somewhere international because just getting there is interesting because you're flying over different countries' airspaces. You talk to different air traffic controllers. After a while, you get familiar with how to say hello and goodbye in all the languages. So when you check in with Milano, you say buongiorno, and they love that because you're speaking their language. And so it's quite interesting. I enjoy flying over different countries, different oceans, different regions. And then when you get there, the crew are very much, everybody's off for 24 hours. So a lot of times people will go out sightseeing, especially if somebody hasn't been to a destination. So there's, always like sightseeing. There's always excellent food to be had, and international hotels also are of a high quality. So that's always nice to stay in different hotels and the downtown areas of different cities of the world. So after a while, you become familiar with your favorite restaurants to go to, and where's the best ice cream and all these things. So I love the international flying. Domestic flying is very different. A lot of the times you don't get long layovers. You might only be somewhere for 16 or 18 hours, not the full day. But occasionally we get longer ones. Like I remember last January, I was in Honolulu for 56 hours. So um, rented a car and went to the North Shore. There was a surfing competition there, so enjoyed some people surfing some 15-meter waves.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. Um,
European destination for you?
Say again?
Favorite European destination, what would you say? For
Favorite European destination? Always a tough one. I love Rome. I can never get tired of Rome. I love Nice as well.
Mhm.
I love Lisbon. But really, any place can be fun, and there's lots of things to see. So I always have a long list of to-do things in all the destinations. And throughout the years, I slowly try to check off the boxes and make sure it's basically like you're going on a 2-week vacation at all the places in the world, but you kind of spread it out over 35 years. So
Yeah.
you'll get your 2-week vacation worth of stuff at every place, but it's just one item at a time.
Mhm. Nice. And so my next question would be more of a personal lifestyle question regarding like possibly jet lag, layovers, health.
Mm.
How do you maintain focus, health, and like work-life balance with the demands of global flying? Because I know that pilots are often exhausted and overworked and just tired from flying.
Right. So I'm blessed to be at Delta Airlines now, and the work-life balance here is amazing because you have full control over your schedule, and you can work as much as you want or as little as you want. So that kind of allows you to make sure that you have that balance between being at home with the family and being on the road, and obviously providing an income for the family. So with that, uh, uh, you know, being able to control my schedule at Delta. For example, this month I'm working quite a lot. This is like my 1 month where um, I do a little bit more work because the whole month of August I'm off. Now I got 2 weeks vacation, but with the bidding, I'm able to stretch that to 4 weeks. So I'm off pretty much from the 3rd of August to the end of the month. In June, we got to go for 2 weeks as well to Europe with the family. Uh, but for that to happen, I had to work a little bit more at the beginning of the month. So there's a lot of different things you can do to kind of spread out the workload, or you can concentrate it in 1 week so that you have more time off later. And with that, every single birthday, holiday, special event, my kids, soccer game at school, I'm able to be home for that. Because obviously airplanes fly 24/7, 365 a year. I can make sure that I go to work when I need to go to work, and when I need to be off, I'm off.
Yeah, nice. So, Magic, for students dreaming of becoming airline pilots one day, what advice, could be any advice, could be as little as you want, as big as you want, could be a bit more specific, could be a bit more vague. What advice would you give them at the start of their journey, at the start of their career when becoming pilots for any airline, would you say?
I would say there's four things that you need to do to be successful in being an airline pilot. One is, don't be afraid of hard work. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of working for little money in the beginning in order to build the hours, gain the experience, and progress um, through the different steps that you need to take in order to land yourself in the left seat of a wide body airplane. Um, for example, when I did my private pilot license, I did that in high school, and I did it through washing windows. It's, obviously flying is very expensive. So, I would have to work for a couple days, from morning till night, washing windows at people's houses.
Mm.
And then that would pay for like 1 hour of lessons, right? But I
Yeah.
was able to do it over the course of the summer. Saved enough money to make that happen. So, don't be afraid of hard work because it is hard work to get somewhere in aviation. Two, be resilient. You're gonna have headwinds, um, but no headwind, lasts forever. Eventually that headwind's gonna turn to a tailwind, and you're gonna end up where you want to end up. But you have to be able to roll with the punches, and only because it becomes hard doesn't mean you should give up. It helps if you're really passionate about aviation, because if you don't like flying, it's a lot of work to get there. So, if you love flying and you put your mind to it, you can definitely be successful and achieve your goals.
Yeah.
The next big thing is expand your network. This is a small field. Aviation is small, especially, in your home country. There's only X amount of pilots. Chances are somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who can help you.
Mhm.
So make friends. I was actually telling that to my son this morning as he was going to an aviation camp. Talk to people, meet people, get to know them, become friends with them, because it's a small community. So when you network and you meet people, then you can ask them for advice because they've been there. You can ask them, hey, do you know anybody who can help me, do this and this and that? I mean, you met me on LinkedIn, and here we are doing this podcast. So it works. A lot of jobs you will get, especially in the beginning, is because your friend told you about it, or somebody knows somebody in recruitment, or somebody can write you a letter of recommendation. So expand your network, make friends, keep up with your connections in the field, and eventually that will pay off, and they'll help you along the way.
That's nice. So you were saying that your son wants to become a pilot as well, right?
Yeah, he's 9, almost turning 10, so, and he's loving everything about aviation. So he's in a summer camp at Northeast Philadelphia Airport right now. And yeah, he's like, when can I start lessons? I'm like, well, you can't solo till you're 16, so just hold your horse, hold your horses.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And the last final step, I would say, to help students dreaming of becoming airline pilots is enjoy the whole process. There was always like this you're always rushing to get to the next step, and you're always never really happy where you are because you want to build hours, you want to get to the next bigger airplane, you want to get to the major airlines, you want to fly international, but actually enjoy every single step of the way, because that 172 is actually quite fun to fly. So don't rush
Mm.
through all the steps. Just enjoy the whole journey, the whole journey of learning how to be a pilot and training and getting different ratings and building up your hours. It's very enjoyable. So don't, forget to enjoy the whole, takeoff, just concentrating on the destination.
Yeah, yeah, nice. And so my last question for you, and it could be a bit more be familiar to the previous question, but if you could go back and give yourself, your younger self, one piece of career advice, what would it be, like specifically to you, would you say?
I would say I would tell myself, don't worry about it. It's going to turn out just fine.
Yeah.
Because you always worry, 2006, when I was looking for, somewhere to grow from Pinnacle Airlines onto something bigger and better. I sent um, applications to, Delta Airlines, Continental Airlines in those days, and all these airlines, and didn't hear nothing back, and you kind of get discouraged, like, wow, what's going to happen? Am I going to be stuck in this job forever, or am I going to lose my job? September 11th, when that happened, the whole flying stopped for a week. And when it resumed, there was a list. That was back before, people sent emails, and it was a piece of paper in the operations with names of all the pilots, and then the red line went across, and then anybody below the red line is basically furloughed out of a job, and anybody above the red line is not. And I look on the list, and I'm two numbers up from the red lines. I was like, So you always worry, how it's going to turn out. Then we had financial crisis
2008.
in 2008, 2009, and that was a bit of a struggle as well for the airline industry. Then we had COVID in 2020, and I saw a quarter of my colleagues, be made redundant from their job, and the emails are being sent, and you worry, hey, am I the next one on the list to get fired, basically. Um, but in the end, it always works out. And if it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out, it might work out even better in a way that you didn't think about it. So, it's a very dynamic industry. It has its ups and downs. It's very cyclical. If the economy is good in the world, airlines prosper, and then if the economy is not so good, they don't. But in the end, it works out just fine. So I would say don't worry about it. Just don't be afraid of hard work, be resilient, expand your network, and then most importantly, enjoy the whole process.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with what Magic is saying. Well, Magic, thank you so much for sharing your story and insights with us today. I really appreciate your time, and I know our listeners will walk away inspired by everything you've shared. If you're a student or young professional interested in aviation or travel, don't forget to follow Aviation for Youth. I'm Alibek, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep dreaming, and keep reaching for the sky.